after going through a million band names and going like, oh, this sounds cool. Somebody already has this. Oh, this sounds cool. Somebody already has this. I saw the Dissentience and I was like, that kind of sounds cool. And I checked and nobody had it.
Nobody has this.
Yeah. Probably because nobody can pronounce it, but it's fine.
Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in the guys from Dissentience. I want to make sure I don't mess that up and say it correctly. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. Excited to be here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, stoked to have you. Brand new album, Empire Anatomy, is out now. It is crushing. I had a bunch of moments while listening back to it where I was like, whoa. I did like the Keanu, but by myself, so no one was here to hear it. Like if a tree falls in the forest, if a Keanu whoa is uttered in alone while you're rocking out in a like bedroom mosh, does anybody know about it until you tell them in an interview? But yeah, man, super stoked to make your acquaintances. We've got a couple of guys on camera. We might have another guy hiding in the room somewhere.
There he is in the corner.
There we go. Hey, he's gonna peek in. I think it was like the Megadeth Sweating Bullets video right there for a second where like another Dave showed up. Feel free to introduce yourselves and what you do in the band, and we'll start there.
I'm Conor Valentin. I play guitar and do vocals in Dissentience.
I'm Jimmy Vitale. I play guitar and do not do vocals in Dissentience.
I'm Nick Jordan. I hit stuff.
There it is. He hits stuff with sticks, round things. First and foremost, I hope you guys are all well. It has been a banana balls time in the world. I still can't reconcile like the last couple of years of humanity and everything, but I just hope you're well. I hope your families are well. I hope you haven't suffered any personal losses because this shit has been a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I mean, yeah, luckily we're all in good health. I know he just recently got over the vid. I had it about a year ago. Nick, I don't think you've ever had it, right?
So. Yeah. Not that I know of.
It's but we've all been fortunate to be able to so far keep a job like through the pandemic and everything. So it's we've been fortunate in that regard. But yeah, I mean, everybody else is healthy and it's pretty much all you can ask for. So
right on, glad to hear it. I'm not super familiar with Bethlehem, PA. That's your hometown officially. I think it's like where Mike and Ike's and Just Born and Peeps are made, but like that's all I know about the town. I have some friends in Pennsylvania. What's like the in terms of music and live music? Have you lost some like bars and clubs? Is there like a major venue in the area that you guys do maybe play or go see other bands at? How's the lifeblood going there for live music? Because that's where my concern is. Like, I don't want to lose these heavy music venues.
Yeah, for heavy music, it's a little tough in this area. I mean, the one that we always end up playing pretty regularly is the Alternative Gallery in Allentown, which is just one town over. Shout out to Paul Caravasi from Soul Grinder Zine. He's the one who promotes that and throws all those shows together.
False man.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple other spots around here for live music, but not too much on the heavy end. Jabberjaws is another one that we play.
We used to have Croc Rock. That shut down.
Yeah, that
was a big one. I went to a lot of shows growing up there, me and him both.
Yep.
Now it's like there's, what is it? One Center Square over in Easton throws metal shows every once in a while. There's the Reverb in Reading. We've played there a few times. I don't really go out to see too many shows there though.
It's a little bit
kind of out of the way, but yeah, I mean, once Croc Rock shut down, I mean, like that was the biggest one, and that one definitely hurt because we would see all of our favorite bands come through there because that was always just a major stop on those tours. So
and it was nice because the promoter, I think, knew a lot of those bands, so they would come back, right. And I mean, it was I don't know what, maybe 1,000-ish capacity.
Yeah, I'd say probably close to like 500 or 600, but I mean, it was decent enough
but
where
they would
like
have bands like Megadeth come through there, King Diamond every once in a while,
Trivium all the time,
so Trivium, God forbid, a bunch of good bands. So losing that was definitely a big detriment to the scene as far as bigger shows go. But on the local scene end, I think we have a good thing going. There's a lot of cool bands in the area.
It's small but tight.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of knows each other, and it works as well for like a good little like community where everybody kind of like, yo, you want to get on a show? You want to get on a show? Like, so we don't have too much trouble necessarily. And like, we've been doing this for a little while in the area. So like everybody, for the most part, like knows about us and like we know about them. So like if somebody hits us up, it's not like some foreign entity just being like, hey, we've never met you guys before. Like, do you guys want to hop on a show? So that's it. It's nice. I think we have a good community here. It's just unfortunately, as far as like bigger venues go that will host our type of music, it's a little on the thin side, unfortunately. So we end up like a lot of the shows we play, like we have to go over to Jersey, or like we've gone down to Maryland. We've gone up to Massachusetts, Connecticut, like that stuff. Hell, we even went to LA once. Yeah. But yeah, so unfortunately around here the scene isn't as big as we'd probably like it, but you know, we get by.
Like Nick said, small but tight.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I like hearing that, and I like hearing about make your own scene if there isn't one. I'm a big fan of that DIY ethos. I think you guys are closer to Western Mass than closer to Worcester, and even Western Mass, like because you're Western PA, you're closer to that end where there is like a tremendous, like was and still kind of is a tremendous small club and big metal scene, and a lot of diverse bands are from there, and a lot of diverse bands are from PA. Man, people sleep on PA, but like hardcore, death metal, thrash metal, post metal, post rock, all kinds of crazy indie rock and weird shit, and of course hip hop and things people know for Philly. But like and killer, in general, like the history and the legacy of Pennsylvania is always like, oh, got a lot of killer gigs. Metal and Beer Fest, Decibel used to be headquartered there. It's still kind of regional, I think mostly Virginia now, but good times. How did you guys get together? Because it's always like random molecules form a band, right?
I'll let you tell it.
I mean, ultimately we met in high school. Jimmy and I had known each other maybe slightly prior because we had the same guitar teacher, and we also both played sax in the school bands. So we had seen each other at a few concerts, like jazz band concerts and all that kind of good stuff. But I think it was probably my freshman year, your sophomore year.
Yeah.
We were chilling in band one day, still both in the sax section, and at that point I was already playing guitar and I was wanting to start a band. So hit up basically the only couple people I knew that played metal, were interested in metal, could have done anything remotely heavy, and Jimmy was one of them.
Go ahead, Connor, tell him.
First practice did not go super well. Jimmy didn't get a call back for a little while, but nah, it was all went well, man. We hit it off right away. I mean, even Jimmy was into some of like maybe not the heavier stuff that I was into, but that's always kind of been one of the nice things for our band, is that we all have our own influences. But some of the stuff, like one of the first bands I think that I introduced you to was Trivium.
Yeah, I didn't really listen to him too much before that.
Yeah, but getting into sort of that vein of metal, that whole new wave of American heavy metal, when that was still sort of hot and popping, was awesome, and it was an inspiration to us back then.
That was what, like 2011-ish, right?
Yeah, I think 2011 is when we put it together, and then 2012 is when we played our first show.
Yeah, so essentially, and then like once me and him started jamming, there was this other kid that we knew. No, actually at that point it was Jim Shin. It was a mutual friend of his through his sister that was playing drums for us. We shopped around like a bass player or two, and then I had this one buddy who randomly came over and watched us practice one day. And then his dad was like, yo, why don't you just like pick up a bass and join him? And we were just like, I mean, do you want to go out and buy a bass? And next thing you know, Langer's in the band and he's learning how to play bass and he's keeping up, and he gets the job done for as abruptly as he came into the band. Like he's always kept up without having as much of like experience starting out as like we did. And he's just always been a part of the band, you know what I mean? So
I think he just loved playing like as much as we did. Yeah, sort of saw that spark when we were practicing, and as soon as he picked up the bass, just stuck with it.
So at that point, it was like it was me, Connor, and Sean. I'm gonna refer to him as Langer. It's his last name. It's just what we call him, or Ginger. Like whatever works. Yeah. So we had that Jim Shin guy as a drummer. Then he didn't really work out, so we got our one buddy Corey Gross to fill in for drums, and then he kind of didn't work out, and then we got this other random guy off of I don't even know where we found, Facebook Craigslist. Maybe, or Craigslist, honestly.
Craigslist drummer.
So we started playing with him, played a few shows with him, and then he didn't end up working out, and then all of a sudden we're sitting there
just like drummer conundrum.
Yeah, we couldn't lock down a solid drummer for the life of us in the area. There weren't many to work with that could play kind of like what we would want them to play, had like chops to really, not saying that the kids weren't out there. It's just they were already involved in other projects and blah, blah, blah. So out of nowhere, we're sitting there one day and we get a message from
day, Nick was taking a shit.
Yeah.
And perusing the internet, looking for bands, and he found us.
Yeah, so he sent us a message. You know, we saw he had a bunch of drum covers up, and like we mentioned Trivium before. He had a bunch of really awesome Trivium covers that we checked out, and we were like, "Yo, this kid's sick." We sent him some of the material that we had at the time, and what was it, like 2 days later, he got back to us with like his own cover of one of the songs, and it was better than like what we had already programmed in there. And we're like, "Fuck yeah!" So,
unfortunately, he lived what 3.5, 4 hours away.
Yeah,
so that
he's
was
from
a little bit
Altoona.
that was a little bit of a hurdle.
Yeah, so the first few years with him, it was kind of like going back and forth sporadically, like jamming and trying to work it in.
He lived with me for a summer.
He lived with Conor for a summer. He then you know, out of dedication, him and his girlfriend like moved to Bethlehem literally for him to essentially like be in the band, and they made this part of their lives. And you know, like we're forever grateful for that. Like I don't know if I necessarily would have made that sacrifice. It's a big one. So Nick's here. He's here to stay. So yeah, and you know, we've just been trucking along ever since. Like it's like ever since he's joined the band, like we used to Why We Fight, and then once he joined the band, we decided to change it to Dissentience. After the one Protest the Hero song, we all kind of just decided we like that name. So that's one of our big influence too, is Protest the Hero. So it's kind of an obvious choice. I think Conor came up with it, right? I think you decided on.
Well, there were about
idea.
4 or 5.
Was it my idea?
No, it was mine.
That's what I thought.
There was like 4 or 5 other Why We Fights, and we were getting in Facebook message battles with them about who could have the name.
It was great.
And eventually we were just like, well, we have this new drummer who's really good. We can actually like, I don't have to sit there and write the drum parts anymore, you know, so we don't have to deal with that, and we can actually play what we want to play and not just what we're relegated to skill wise, you know. So and even on the demo, like if you go back and listen to that first demo, the one song that we did after Nick joined the band was Reckoning Day. And I think that actually got reworked for the new album still, because it's always been a fan favorite. And it's really the only one of that batch that I think still fits the Dissentience sound, as opposed to the rest, which definitely, to me and probably all of us, feel like more like Why We Fight songs, because it's just the era they were written in.
Yep.
But I was sitting downstairs listening to was it Fortress the one night on vinyl, and I was looking at all the, you know, after going through a million band names and going like, oh, this sounds cool, somebody already has this, oh, this sounds cool, somebody already has this, I saw the Dissentience and I was like, that kind of sounds cool, and I checked and nobody had it.
Nobody has this.
Yeah, probably because nobody can pronounce it, but it's fine.
That's hilarious. Bands, do your homework, go on Google. Nothing against, you know, if you pick a name you like first, that's fine, but like when you start to get out into the larger world, as you guys have, this is your 4th or 5th release, I think, count the demo. Like, you know, Google magic helps. Just a little Google magic.
Yeah.
If there's too many bands with the same name, or what I've been told by IP lawyers is if your bands are completely different in a different country, completely different genre, you might be able to get away with it, but probably not. Like, just pick another name. And you guys did. So good job. And Protest the Hero rocks. That's awesome. And I'm sure not a lot of people have named their bands after Protest the Hero. That band is somehow underrated after all this time. It's like in 15, 20 years, but they're actually, people don't always mention them, but they're so killer.
Amazing.
Besides Protest the Hero and Trivium, any other like bands you guys bonded over, or bands that have like maybe creeped in as an influence now that you have a few releases under your belt?
Yeah, there's been definitely a few. Like one band I think we can all agree on is like something like Revocation.
Absolutely.
It's a huge one. Like one of the biggest ones.
The Black Dahlia Murder DVD is our Bible, the first one.
We could recite that thing word for word. It's actually it's so stupid. Oh my god.
Dude, Jim used to come over to my house like every day after high school. She's like, Black Dahlia DVD, Black Dahlia DVD.
So definitely the Black Dahlia Murder. Bands like Silosis, we're huge fans of. Gojira, Lamb of God.
A lot of old school stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, the classic thrash bands,
Anthrax
and Megadeth for sure.
Carcass.
Carcass, Morbid Angel, Death, of course, especially shit like Symbolic or Individual Thought Patterns.
Sepultura. Yep. We love doing Sepultura covers live. They're fun.
I mean, there's a lot. I think as far as the influences go, one of our biggest mission statements as a band was just to not have a specific sound, you know, like it's cool to dig the thrash stuff, it's cool to dig the death metal stuff, but our sort of goal was always to blend it all and, you know, have our own unique sort of style of all the influences coming together.
Yeah, we don't ever like, our goal is to never have to like essentially pigeonhole ourselves into one specific thing. Like we always want the option to do kind of like what we want in that, you know, like we realistically will always keep it metal, but it's just like have the room to navigate, you know, wherever we want to go.
And at least
So,
me personally, I hate when seeing like, oh yeah, I really like Morbid Angel. Are there any other bands that sound like Morbid Angel? And somebody can rattle off 15 bands that sound exactly like Morbid Angel. And it's cool. Like I love Morbid Angel, you know, but like do your own thing. Like that's always what made those bands great to me, was that they were coming out and doing their own thing, keeping it fresh. So I think the best way as a new band coming up to pay respect to those dudes is to try to keep it fresh yourselves.
Right on. There was a period. I know people don't believe me when I say this, and again, I'm gonna say get off my lawn. But there is definitely a period of time when there were not like every band. There, even in the genres, all the bands had their own identity. There weren't that many people playing music. It really wasn't as widespread as it is today. I'm thrilled that it is. I'm so pleased that there's a never-ending stream of good, mediocre, and terrible bands to check out. And sometimes great, and you know, across every genre. So like, you know, I get it too. And yeah, man, that's pretty awesome. You can never go wrong with some Sepultura covers, by the way, any era. That's just me. I'm super stoked for this Sepultura. If we're actually going to get this Sepultura tour in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go through like Through the Moon, Sacred Reich, Sepultura, Crowbar, Art of Shock. That's going to be sick.
yeah.
Oh, he played,
Isn't he back?
so,
well, no, I know,
say,
but he's
yeah,
like
yeah,
back
yeah,
in.
he's
Like
back
that's who
with
he's
them.
with now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another band. Machine Head was a huge one for us.
Nice.
Missed the original lineup, or I guess it's not the original lineup, but you know, to me, when I got into them, that was the quintessential lineup.
The Ashes Blackening period was fucking amazing. I mean, there's a lot of other good Machine Head too, but that is like pinnacle for us, anyways.
Ditto. Anybody who sees our news, some of our videos, they have a big Machine Head banner in my space here, so people already know. I'm still waiting to run into Rob Flynn out here. We'll see if it happens. He's gonna be weird when I'm gonna fanboy out. He's not gonna like it at all. Anyway, I try not to, but sometimes it just comes out. So yeah, man, Empire Anatomy, all that stuff makes sense. And I will say, for as heavy it is and it's unrelenting sometimes, I have picked up, so it's cool that you like rattle off some of those influences, because I do pick up, like, especially in the guitar work, a lot of layering, a lot of interesting parts. It's not just like hammer to the face, which is fun. And everybody, that's what people love. And that's why they come back to this genre, right? Hammer to the face, mosh pit parts, circle pit parts. But I do like that there's like a lot of intricate, interesting stuff from both of you that I picked up on listening a few times. I was like, man, there's some really cool parts here that you guys have clearly worked out. And it's not just like, let's throw that in there. No, it's like very, I don't want to say calculated, or it's definitely not formulaic. It was planned. And that's a compliment.
Yeah,
Thank you.
No,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
Honestly, we put, I mean, because of the pandemic, we put a lot more time than I think any of us expected into getting all of this together. And, you know, we're at the point where we're just very glad that, you know, it's out there. We finally have something that like we're like, well, not that we're not proud of the first EP, but, you know, our first like debut full length, like something that we can proudly like plant our flag behind. And like, you know, so far we've gotten pretty much nothing but good feedback about it. And we honestly can't be more stoked. We're really excited with how it turned out. Again, I'm just going to say right now, we want to give a huge shout out to Corey and Matt and Afro at Peach Pie Sound too. You know, Matt was a buddy of ours.
So he did sound at a couple shows in Jersey. And frankly, it was like, I'm going out on a limb here, maybe it's just me, the only good sound guy we've ever fucking had, or one of them. And I saw when we were getting ready to start doing pre-production and, you know, record the record, I saw he lives out on a farm in Hillsborough, New Jersey, and basically just had like one of those Amish sheds dropped onto like 50 feet away from his house. And he was building the whole thing himself as a studio. And I was like, yo, let us know when this is done, man. Because I mean, even if it was just for pre-pro, it's like, you get the sound, you know how to make things sound good. Let's work together. Let's, you know, and especially if it's his first thing. You know, I love Matt. I would love to work with him, and at least at that point, and now I would love to work with him again.
Yeah, I mean, the overall experience, just because, like, again, we went into it already like being friends with Matt. It just made, like, my biggest thing was like the entire experience was comfortable. It wasn't like we were going in there and anything was awkward. It was like we could be ourselves, we could joke around, but at the same time, we had Corey and Matt there to really help guide us along the way. You know, as like this was our first debut record. There wasn't a time length to it. It was like we could take our time. And I think that really reflects in the record, as far as us being really comfortable in the studio and being able to put out our best work.
And I would say one of the things too that Corey sort of introduced us to the concept of and brought to the table was pre-production. And I think a lot of bands, especially in metal, hate the word producer. They think like, oh, you know, somebody's going to produce. Fuck them. They're just going to try to water down the sound. That's not how, I mean, it can be how it is, I guess, if that's what you want, but it's not how it is for us. You know, when we talked to Corey, and I probably said this before in other interviews and stuff, but it was one of my favorite things. When we first started talking to him, he was working at a different studio, but he first sent us an email that was just like, hey guys, you know, I know we're going to be doing some stuff together soon. Here's like 5 albums that I think sort of remind me of your sound, or I could see you going towards these kind of things. And it was like Strapping Young Lad, Death, Creator, like a lot of, I mean, stuff that either some of us already listened to or others of us have fallen in love with since. And, you know, it was awesome that, especially to hear that, where it's like all those records are uncompromising. You know, they don't sacrifice heaviness for radio airplay or any of that bullshit. You know, they're fucking heavy. And to have somebody in a producer role, especially really not knowing what to expect, give us the okay to still be heavy was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, it was great working with him because he totally gets the sound. And again, he's not pushing us towards anything that we don't already want to do.
But he's also not afraid to tell us when something sucks and we need to fix it, which is good, which is what we need. You need that kick in the ass and that outside voice to really like, you know, see through it all and just make sure that everything belongs, or that everything like fits and, you know, forms into place the right way. Because if you don't have somebody like that and everybody's just shooting smoke up your ass, like it's just like, I don't think you're going to make as good of a product as you can make.
Right on. Of course, Corey is Corey Pierce of God Forbid, Disciples of Verity, metal personality, barbecue enthusiast, and whiskey knowledge, weed fan, Negrodamus, all these things. I concur about all those things, guys. An encyclopedic knowledge of the history of metal and other things. And the important thing is the ability you're too close to the music to self-edit sometimes. Older bands don't give a shit about self-editing because they start to feel themselves and they're like, everything I do is great. And there's nobody to check them, because it's like in sports, if the manager makes $1 million and then the superstar guy makes 30 million, he's not going to listen anymore when he needs to make an adjustment. It's the same thing with bands. So to have that respect and that relationship back and forth, the trust, to have somebody who can check you and be like, yo, you can do better, or not this, that. It's important. And also a lot of people have garbage ears, and Corey definitely does not have garbage ears. Some people have trash for ears, but yeah, I still think producers are important. I respect and appreciate anybody who can produce their own stuff also. And, you know, that's always a possibility for the future, but the results show this is a professional sounding, awesomely put together record. It's tracks beautifully. It's tight. It's very short. I think it's like 10 songs in 35 minutes. I was like, man, none of these songs are hanging around too long. You know, one a little longer than the other here and there, but straight to the point, nicely put together, beautiful, a lot of motifs, killer drums, by the way. For the dude hanging out in the room, there's some, like, if you love killer metal drums, put this shit on. This is your workout album, I think, for the spring.
Got to release a playthrough video for one of the singles we just put out for the record, so look out for that too. So
all right, we'll make sure we get ahead of it, and we'll share it all, and we'll link everything in the description here. Yeah, man, I just have a few more for you. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate y'all, especially as you're starting your night and you know, giving a little bit of your time. It's your time. But yeah, man, obviously it's been, you had the pandemic was good because you had the opportunity to work extra hard on the record. What is it looking like right now for you guys to play some gigs? Did you guys get to do a record release gig? I wasn't aware if you did.
Yeah, so going back to that alternative gallery that Conor mentioned earlier with Paul, we actually were on a show that was literally the day after our CD release. So we kind of incorporated that as our like CD release show.
Paul's birthday / our CD release show.
So we were, like the timing worked out perfectly. As far as other gigs go for the future, I mean, we currently have a few booked. So I know we have one at the end of February. We have at least one, if not two, in March so far.
One in April.
So we're always on the constant lookout to, you know, play more shows. If any promoters, you know, are looking for bands or anything, especially around this area or even a few states away, like we're always down to play. You know, always hit us up. Like we we're willing to go wherever we need to go to be able to play. Like that's our goal.
We rented a fucking van and drove out to LA for one gig.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So like
it is what it is.
Our goal as a band now, especially now that the record's out, is like we just want to play out as much as possible. And obviously as like an unsigned band, it's like, you know, we go out of our way to like hit up promoters, but also like we're hoping a lot of people will hear the record and be like, oh, like this band sounds sick. Like we would love to have them come out and like play a show. So we're hoping that spurs a lot of opportunity as well. Obviously with the pandemic, like things are just slowly starting to like come back. Yeah. So we know there's going to be like a little bit of, you know, like a give and take sort of thing. But
and it seems like with the pandemic and all that going on, there was sort of a nice little pickup sort of last year during summer, and then winter again, things kind of died down because of the new variants and whatnot coming out. But now it sort of seems like things are back on the up and up. So we're getting, you know, a few shows here and there, but hopefully by summer we'll be kicking ass.
Yeah, we'll be ready
a couple days a week, you know.
Fingers crossed for you guys. I'd love to get you guys out, get out on the road, do your thing, play shows. I mean, that's, you know, what we live for. And hopefully get to go to some shows just as a fan, you know, because it was so long without them. I definitely got spoiled out here. I went to many shows, as many as I could stand to go to at one point. Beside working on the music, what else do you guys do for fun and entertainment to keep yourself busy and occupied during these crazy times?
I mean, for me, at least in the winter, I like to snowboard.
Oh man, you gotta don't tell everybody our secrets.
Only in the winter though. Yeah, I mean, like I'm real big into snowboarding. I like to golf in the summer. I'm a big poker player, so that I do that in my free time as well. You know, just trying to go on like little trips with friends here and there. Travel. Going to Mexico in May, so I'm excited about that. That'll be fun. I went to Aruba last year, so you know, I don't know. Stuff like that for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's
disc golf.
Disc golf. I was gonna say disc golf is kind of the band activity. For me, I've been doing, especially in the last year, because spending a lot of time inside, or last 2 years, I guess, spending a lot of time inside and whatnot. Yep. A lot of that. As we call each other.
Nah, I had a long time.
It was a butt dial. Okay?
God damn it.
But I spent a lot of time inside. I've gotten back into art, which I used to do a lot as a kid, drawing, all that kind of good stuff, comics, reading them, trying to make them, all that kind of good stuff. We're all movie buffs in some capacity here, you know, whether it's I love the 80s action and sci-fi shit. Jimmy watches literally fucking anything he can find on my Netflix account.
No, you changed the password. I don't have access to it anymore.
Yeah, we'll have to
whatever, dude.
Yeah, just a lot of different stuff, you know. Same thing as him, traveling. My girlfriend and I go to a lot of different spots. We went to Savannah last year, New Orleans the year before that, California. You know, just getting around, seeing the world. It's a good time, you know.
It's important. I love hearing about the comics. Maybe we'll get an Empire Anatomy comic someday, or the next album.
Well, that's been some of the like best shit, at least for me, going into a lot of this, is like the single artwork. You know, the one dude Sawblade that we had do the upcoming artwork for Clinical Psychosis. I mean, one, the artwork is based on some old underground stuff like Robert Crumb did, but also he's been posting that he was doing like old Marvel submissions in the 90s and stuff. So it's cool to see. I mean, he does a lot of band stuff now, but it's cool to see that he came from a comics background. The one other guy that did the Beast Beneath artwork, Alex Delaney, he's got an awesome comic out called The Derelict, and a couple others, but that's the one that's my favorite of his. And the other dude that did the War of Belief art, Steph Dumais, he's got a whole comics company, man, Bloody Gore Comics. They're out of Canada. So, I mean, being into that stuff, and just as somebody who appreciates art, and, you know, that's one of the main things I look for when I pick up a comic. I love going into that side of, you know, the artwork side of being in a band, especially because, and I've probably told this story before too, but like as a kid, one of the things that got me into metal was seeing like Iron Maiden artwork and Vic Rattlehead from Megadeth and all that kind of cool shit. And, you know, sometimes the artwork didn't necessarily match what was on the album as far as the intensity goes, you know, but it's what got me listening to it. And when we dropped the artwork for Empire Anatomy, which was done by our buddy Nick
Shout out to Nick Fluke.
Yeah,
guy hand paints this album.
If
we tilt this back, that's actually the original canvas painting that he made for the EP. So he gave us, he sends us that. he sent us the original oil painting he did for Empire Anatomy as well. And he does it. And like, honestly, he's just become like a really good friend of the band. He does it like realistically for free. He just loves to be involved, man. And we appreciate the hell out of him because he works with us. He just makes really awesome, sick designs, and we couldn't be happier. So.
And it's fun working with the artists too, again, from a comics background, because I'll send them the most random shit, man. Spreads from old heavy metal magazines, or the werewolf thing was from Bernie Wrightson, that Steve what was it, Cycle of the Werewolf?
Yeah.
Excuse me, that he did with Stephen King, and like an old Swamp Thing comic. And these dudes just get it, and they love that we're not just coming at them with like, oh yeah, dude, we want to fucking skull with the dagger through it and the brains everywhere. It's like, no, we want
more skulls, all the skulls.
Been for a decade, don't have a
Can't
single
really
skull
go.
t-shirt.
Can't really go wrong with the skulls and the daggers through them, but like, I get you. Super. Look at these well-rounded young men here from Dissentience, man. That's awesome. Yeah, man.
So proud.
I know. You should show her this interview when it runs. Congratulations, man, on the album. It's really killer. I'm rooting for you guys. Keep us informed. Stay in touch with us. Tell us what's going on with you guys next. And yeah, obviously, if we're ever in the same place as you, we're going to catch you at a show.
Awesome.
Hopefully
man.
soon,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.